In today's episode of Today in World War II, the Nordic countries declare neutrality is a key to freedom in the age of Hitler. Neville Chamberlain says he'd still be willing to negotiate with Germany. Uh, Now in the real world, Germans sink a Royal Navy destroyer off of Tobruk. The USS Enterprise and a couple of cruisers attack Wake Island. The 8th Air Force and the RAF launch massive raids against a ball bearing factory in Germany. And finally, Hitler makes his final speech in the Chancellery in Berlin. Let's get started. Okay, so on February 24th, 1940. The foreign ministers from Norway, Denmark, and Sweden got together and came up with a foolproof plan to stop Hitler from invading their countries. They made a joint declaration stating that they are neutral, that their neutrality would save them, and that they would not assist Finland. It would not allow any foreign troops to enter their territories. I just want to say that I don't know what was deeper, the denial or the hopium, the copium, but I do just want to say that Norway was invaded and occupied by Germany. Denmark was invaded and occupied by Germany. Sweden only avoided that by basically letting Germany do almost everything it wanted with its, transiting troops through their country, making sure that they kept that iron ore going. So it wasn't exactly like they were totally neutral either. So it's like on the one hand, all right, we're not going to help Finland because we're neutral. We're not going to let any foreign troops go through our territories to get to Finland. That's neutrality. Oh, by the way, we're going to keep we're going to keep sending iron ore, which is absolutely essential for the Nazi war machine. And oh yeah, and we're going to let the Germans transport troops from Norway through Sweden into Finland and then on to the Eastern Front. We're going to do that because that's also neutral, right? I just want to say that there's this just the same kind of horse hockey you hear about Ukraine lots of times nowadays, and just it's striking to me how so many people have not learned the lesson of the neutral and neutralities in, neutrality and what actually happens to countries who don't take a stand and don't wake up and smell the decaffeinated coffee that, when you have an aggressor nation like the Nazi Germany back in the day and what's happening now in the world, that neutrality, not backed up by strength, don't mean anything. What also doesn't mean anything is if you don't subscribe to my channel and become a subscriber. And obviously, the obligatory mention that you need to click the bell that will notify you whenever I drop a new video. Why is this important? Because the more subscribers I have, the more seriously the YouTube algorithm takes my channel, and it will show it to more people, which means my channel will grow among like-minded people. So it's very simple. It's a scientific formula. So don't even worry about the science. It's good. So I appreciate it. Thank you. On February 24th, 1940, Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain condemned Hitler's aggression, but said he'd be willing to negotiate if for some reason an alternative German government came into being. Um, there's a saying in somewhere, I forget the source, but that at key times of history, the right men rise up to meet the challenge. Well, Neville Chamberlain was never the right man. He was the wrong man for everything. And this is what, 6 months into the war, and he's still talking about a willingness to negotiate with Germany after that. I don't care if he said alternative German government, it doesn't matter. They had already invaded Poland, they had already subjugated the Poles, it was, at that point in time, it was war. The fact that 6 months later he's still talking about that meant that, boy, the Brits almost waited too long to put Churchill in. Let's put it that way. There was no time for that kind of a prime minister leading that country in wartime. To quote from the Godfather trilogy, The Godfather, the best Godfather movie, the first one, you know, uh, Neville Chamberlain was not a wartime consigliere. Okay, let's just put it that way. He was not, right? They needed to get Churchill in there. He was a wartime consigliere. You can be my wartime consigliere if you like this video and you put a comment down there. Now, the number of subscribers I have is important. That helps me with the algorithm, yes. But liking the video, every video you watch, and leaving a comment, that is really, really, it's like catnip to hyper cats because the algorithm recognizes that there's engagement here, and they'll again the whole idea is to get this feed in front of more, get this content in front of more people's feeds on YouTube. So I would appreciate that. Thank you. On February 24th, 1941. Now we get into the war stage of this today and not fantasy, which was still going on in the phony war times in 1940. In 41, the British destroyer HMS Dainty was sunk by German bombers off of Tobruk. And my comment here is very brief. I take issue with whoever in the Royal Navy decided to name any warship the name Dainty. Okay. I think that's bad karma. And I think that my theory here about how you name your warship is, directly influenced by what happens to them in wartime. You don't want to be dainty in wartime, okay? Even if you're a destroyer and you're the smallest surface vessel in a fleet, you got destroyers, cruisers, battleships, aircraft carriers, and so on and so forth. You don't want to call yourself dainty. It just sends the wrong message, okay? And speaking of not being dainty, on February 24th, 1942, the United States carrier Enterprise launched aircraft to attack Wake Island, and the cruisers Salt Lake City and the Northampton, all that were on, that were in the escort group, also shelled Wake Island. This was good. This was not that. This is a couple months. Let's see, January. Yeah, just a couple months since the Marines were forced to surrender, and due to overwhelming force by the Japanese, it was good. It was symbolic. It didn't have any bearing on the war, like I said. But I just thought it was interesting that we got a little bit of revenge there by, bombing and shelling Wake Island, just to remind the Japanese, hey, we're still here and we ain't going anywhere. And just a few months away, the Japanese carrier force at Midway also got a lesson that, hey, we're still here and we ain't going anywhere. Okay. And on February 4th, 1944, we're going to fast forward a couple years. Uh, this was one of the bloodiest raids in wartime. The Eighth Air Force, if you know, the American Air Force with the B-17s, B-24s, they attacked the Schweinfurt ball bearing plants in Germany. That was, if you take away fuel, refineries and oil producing facilities, oil wells, and so on and so forth, ball bearings were the next biggest vulnerable industry in Nazi Germany. And rightly so. The 8th Air Force had tried to target it before 43. That didn't turn out very well. So they went back to it. They had the RAF came at night and bombed it. And, it was, still very dicey for them because they couldn't there was no the P-51 Mustangs had not yet arrived. There was still no fighter escort deep into Germany and getting out of Germany. So they still there was still a lot of losses taken. But this raid did do some damage to the factory, at least. The first one didn't do much damage, but the second one did. And it was just they didn't have enough reserves. They couldn't afford to take those kind of losses over and over and over and over again. So they needed to have a cumulative effect, not a one-off, because they could, if they had time to recover, they'd get everything back to going. But still, you have to fight a war, and you have to go and try to fight where the enemy's weakest and take advantage of what of what you can do. So I mean, who blames them? But just in the longer scheme of things, it still didn't do the job to put that out of action forever. Finally, February 24th, 1945, Adolf Hitler made his last speech, in the Chancellery of Berlin, Germany. And I think we should all uh, have a moment of silence for this momentous occasion when Hitler climbed out of his bunker and actually had the courage to say something in public. You know, that's my reaction to it. Okay. I think he only made one more public appearance, or he was photographed, was when it was like maybe 10 days left until the Soviets broke through into Berlin, downtown Berlin, and he shot himself and killed himself when he was congratulating these poor boys, 13, 14, 15-year-old boys who had been raised up and they were scared to death and peeing their pants probably, and probably were all going to die, the ones that were in the photo. But he fought to the last little boy in Germany. So you got to hand that to him, right? Anyway, can't stand that guy. Uh, Thank you for watching this video. I appreciate it. And I can't wait to show you another video tomorrow.